Christianity was introduced to Japan by Portuguese Jesuits in 1549. The faith spread rapidly, particularly in Kyushu, where many daimyo embraced it, seeking advantageous European alliances. Missions flourished, with Jesuit schools and churches offering charity and education. However, the rise alarmed the ruling elite. Toyotomi Hideyoshi, fearing foreign influence and loyalty to Rome, issued a 1587 edict banning missionaries, though enforcement was lax. The turning point came in 1597 with the martyrdom of 26 Jesuit missionaries, crucified in Nagasaki. Under Tokugawa Ieyasu, persecution intensified. The 1614 edict expelled all missionaries and forced Christians to apostatize or face death. Fed up with the fierce persecution, Christian peasants led the Shimabara Rebellion in 1637, but were brutally crushed as Christianity was driven underground, while the Tokugawa shogunate isolated Japan. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel to help me reach 70,000 subs by the end of July. If you'd like to go a step further, you can also support me on Patreon, where you'll get ad-free viewing, all the maps from the videos, and other exclusive content. Thanks so much. Now, back into the video. History was forever changed as Toyotomi decided against the Christian ban in 1587 after securing trade deals, so the faith spread like wildfire. Peasants and samurai, drawn to the promise of spiritual equality in a land bound by rigid Confucian and Buddhist hierarchies, flocked to the cross. Taking hold of Kyushu, it also spread into Shikoku and the southern parts of Honshu. By 1600, nearly 1 million souls, 8% of Japan, were Kirishitans, double what it historically was. Kirishitan was a Japanese term for Christians. This surge sparked tension as Christ's call to a single divine authority stood in defiance of Shinto's myriad kami and Buddhism's spiritual order. To much of the ruling elite, Christianity was a foreign poison as it stirred unrest among peasants, suffering under brutal taxes levied to fund castles and armies for various clans. Unlike Buddhist monasteries, subdued by force, or Shinto priests tied to imperial tradition, Catholics answered to a distant pope, not the Japanese state. Kyushu's Catholic daimyos, who'd adopted the faith for European firearms and trade during the Sengoku period, now looked like rebels in waiting. When Tokugawa claimed the shogunate in 1603, Christianity was his main concern, so he issued an edict banning it, demanding missionaries leave and converts renounce their faith. Churches were to be burned, and those who refused faced crucifixion or exile. In Kyushu and southern Honshu, the Christian communities, too numerous to bow down, rebelled. Led by the daimyo Yusto Takayama, he rallied other daimyos, samurai, ronin, and peasants, fortifying himself in Okayama. Alliances were agreed with the southern clans that had already embraced the cross, while word was sent to the Spaniards in Manila for assistance. The Kuroda clan, under the ambitious and Catholic Kuroda Yoshitaka, were the first to join his ranks. The Kirishitan uprising erupted in December 1603, as Yoshitaka led 30,000, defeating the clans allied to Tokugawa and Kyushu. The victory set Kyushu ablaze as the remaining clans joined in, seizing all shogun lands as their ranks swelled. With the islands secured, they waited for Spain, who supplied gunpowder, muskets, ships, and 12,000 troops to Takayama. In February 1604, Kuroro Nakamasa, the son of Yoshitaka and also a Christian, invaded Shikoku, coordinated with priests who riled up peasants and ronin. Allied to the Hichisuka and Kato clans against the Toto and Yamuchi clans, they quickly outmatched their opposition, destroying shogun castles as the island fell. Meanwhile, on Honshu, Chugoku and Kansai merchants and artisans joined in as Takayama marched on Osaka, hoping to take the city before marching on Kyoto, but were intercepted by Tokugawa's 50,000-strong army at the Battle of Nagasaki, suffering defeat. Regrouping, Takayama was reinforced by Kuroda in April, as Christians met Tokugawa at the Battle of Osaka, besieging the city. Here, the advanced European weapons and tactics shown, taking Osaka Castle after just 6 days. Osaka's fall sent shockwaves across Japan as the fortress was thought to be impenetrable, so numerous clans flipped to the Kirishitan cause. Kyoto, the imperial heart, fell next as Takayama captured Emperor Go-Yezi, while Tokugawa garrisons fled north to Edo, regrouping with Shogun Tokugawa. The uprising swept north as Kirishitans in Kanazawa and Toyama joined in July. Marching north, the Battle of Nagoya pitted Tokugawa's 80,000 against Takayama's 70,000. Once again, the Europeans made the difference, with Nagoya falling after 5 brutal days, leading to more clans abandoning Tokugawa and conversions to Christ. By September, the rebels, now 90,000 strong, marched on Edo, Tokugawa's stronghold. The siege, lasting into October, saw the city burn, its defenses shattered by relentless assaults. After securing the city, Tokugawa Ieyasu was beheaded and his bloodline exterminated. Likewise, Emperor Go-Yezi refused to deny his divinity and was executed. On November 1st, 1604, Takayama was crowned King Yusto I in Osaka, his new capital, in a ceremony fusing Japanese and Christian rites. Despite the coronation, Konoe Nobuhiro, the son of Go-Yezi, had fled north to Sendai and proclaimed himself the Emperor of Japan, though he only controlled Tohoku and was given little attention. Yusto immediately went about reforming his kingdom, expanding clans that aided him and encouraging them to convert while implementing his new Kudo system, fusing Japanese customs with advanced Spanish administration in the lands stripped from opposing clans that fell directly under the king. The Shugo were military governors while the Kokushi were civilian governors, both chosen by Yusto from loyal Christian allies to enforce his order. This structure shattered the Sengoku-era chaos, replacing it with centralized Christian hierarchy that was beginning to take hold in Europe. The Nokozoku, a new Christian peasantry gentry, rose from redistributed estates, given massive tax breaks compared to non-Christians, spurring conversions from the plebs. Catholicism surged as Jesuits and Franciscan missionaries, now backed by imperial might, seized Buddhist temples and Shinto shrines, becoming hubs of worship, education, and charity. Seminaries were constructed across Kyushu and southern Honshu, training native priests. Osaka, rebuilt and repopulated entirely by Christians, now known as Karasu Tokyo, Christ's capital, offered hospitals and alms, breaking barriers, giving peasants refuge from past oppressions. By 1620, nearly 3 million people had embraced Christianity. The church's influence reshaped Japan, as Nagasaki and Karasu Tokyo's harbors bustled with Spanish and Portuguese galleons, bringing European art, music, and architecture, while Spanish architects built Baroque churches and fortifications across Japan, enforcing the new Catholic order. This Europeanization, both deliberate and organic, marked Takayama's reign. In 1607, the Gregorian calendar replaced the lunar system, aligning Japan with the Christian world, while the Latin alphabet became the script for official and church records by 1612, known as Romaji, promoted to unified communication. The old Japanese and Chinese alphabets were simultaneously dropped. Buddhist and Shinto scholars resisted, fearing the loss of Japan's literary heritage, but the Nokozoku were taught to read and write in Romaji. By the 1620s, Romaji dominated government and religious texts, though kanji lingered in the countryside. Catholic feast days and festivals were adopted by the Japanese, with artists beginning to paint biblical scenes in traditional manners as Christianity began to ingrain itself across the country. Converts began adopting Christian names like Francesco, Maria, or Geronimo, proving their devotion as Carisitans, a trend led by Takayama himself, as his eldest son was named Felipe after King Felipe IV of Spain, honoring the man who had so rigorously supported the Christian cause. Spain's alliance was vital, as they fueled the transformation, privately dreaming of their own Empresa de China plan where they would use Japanese aid to conquer China, before marching west and taking over the Ottomans. Ties with Manila were close, constantly receiving arms, priests, and engineers in return for trade privileges in Nagasaki and Kagoshima. Portuguese merchants secured similar rights in Harado. Eventually, a European section of Kyushu Tokyo was built up, increasing the city's growth, albeit along a more European model. A wealthy mercantile class of Carisitans, battled on Portuguese guilds, gained wharf and warehouse licenses, merging in conjunction with the trade. The massive centralized efforts enabled the Japanese to quickly catch up with their Catholic counterparts in Europe, adopting the same military technology and stratagems, ships, cartography, metallurgy, and infrastructure. Arguably, the most important of all was the adoption of the European star forts, rendering the new Christian strongholds virtually impenetrable to local resistance. Despite the Kudo system's implementation across the kingdom, the north occasionally broke out into rebellions as Buddhist and Shinto adherents refused Christianity, but Yusto Takayama's reign was very successful. The passing of Yusto I in 1615, at the age of 63, led to the ascension of his young son Felipe I, whose court was packed with Christian daimyos and Jesuit advisors. Up north, the old dynasty rallied the remaining clans and Buddhist monks to restore the Yamato line, rejecting the Takayamas as foreign stooges. Their fury was stoked by Felipe's first edict, the Mashushiohu, which seized all Buddhist and Shinto lands in Kyushu to fund more Christian missions, schools, and churches. They saw the young king's reign as a chance to strike back and restore the true Japan. Word was sent to temples in Edo, kicking off the first Ganto Rebellion in 1616. Samurai, bitter over the ban on landed warriors to favor Christian warrior classes, tries to seize Edo's fortifications with 10,000 men. But Felipe, guided by his father's trusted general, Kuroro Nagamasa, crushed them with 15,000 at the Battle of Utsunomiya. Rebel leaders and Buddhist monks in Edo were executed, as their lands were granted to loyal Nakazoku under the king. The Edo Rising of 1619 posed a more grave threat. Buddhist monks and peasants seized Kanto temples, pledging loyalty to the true emperor in the north as Yamato troops poured down, taking Edo, causing other cities to massacre their priests and burn down churches across Kanto. Philippe sent loyal forces with Spanish musketeers to retake Edo, fighting a brutal 2-year war before eventually capturing and sacking Edo. This time, Philippe had enough of the Buddhists and Shintos in the north, removing all of them from Edo, burning down many of their remaining temples, replacing the population with Karishitans. Spurred by his advisors, he proclaimed Christianity the only religion of Japan, launching Shukeho, a Japanese inquisition modeled after Spain's quite successful one. They set about hunting Ogushinja, false converts clinging to Buddhism, issuing fines, penances, or imprisonment. However, this only exacerbated tensions, leading to the 100 Days' War as rebellions broke out in the north in 1623, supported by the Yamato again. Philippe mustered 30,000 troops, shattering the rebels at the Battle of Fukushima, seizing lands from the Yamato for his realm. His daimyo and Spanish advisors pressed for a decisive blow, to go a little further and take Sendai, ending the bloodshed forever. Although he was hesitant to do so, he saw the wisdom in their advice, as there was no real army left to oppose him. However, by this point it was November, so he was unprepared to besiege Sendai. After his Spaniards built new fortifications around Fukushima, he regrouped at Edo, gathering reinforcements and Spanish troops for a final showdown. The following year, he marched north once more, defeating the heathens at Minamasoma. The road to Sendai was open as the Yamato fled north to Aomori. Karishitan forces quickly took Sendai, crushing the northern clans who had refused to submit to his father. Despite his initial hopes for a quick war, the clans knew they were fighting for their survival, so put up a brutal fight, forcing 3 years of bloodshed before Aomori was taken. Japan was finally unified under the banner of Christ. He spent the next few years enforcing the Kudo system as northern lands were redistributed to Christian allies, while a massive series of star forts were constructed to separate the peoples, tightening royal power in a method tried and tested across history. Philippe barely returned south to Kurisu Tokyo before a new wave of rebellions broke out, with the Second Kanta Rebellion, the Nagaya Uprising, and the War of 1,000 Days all being put down. With these crushed, any chances of a Shinto or Buddhist revival were over, as all remaining temples and holy spots were taken by the king. Stricter measures were placed on the commoners as Christianity rose to roughly half of Japan. But now, all officials, clans, and daimyos were Catholics as the church cemented its position. With Japan now firmly under the heel of Christianity, Philippe turned his gaze across the sea to Korea, a land battered by Manchu invasions in 1627 and 1636, its Joseon dynasty crumbling and its fields ripe for conquest. Make sure to come back this weekend for the sequel on the Japanese invasion of Korea. If you appreciate my work, please subscribe and consider supporting me on Patreon, where you'll get ad-free viewing, maps, and more. Thanks for sticking around to the end. I'll see you soon.